marijuana might have gone out and killed somebody. In a way, you would have then been responsible for that murder. That is, ethically, if not legally.
I don't look at things like that. I figure that a man who's fool enough to smoke marijuana will get into trouble anyway.
Oh, then you don't smoke it.
Not me. I'm too smart.
Julio Pena, alias Mexican Jim, was smart. A decidedly superior man. But he wasn't smart enough to see the futility of the gamble that he tried to get away with. He lost to the tune of 6 years in San Quentin, and his partner, Soldi, was deported to Italy. Sergeant Cox received the congratulations of narcotic enforcement agencies all over the world.
The film you are about to see represents a significant breakthrough in the advancing science of the motion picture. You are about to witness history in the making.
Now taking screams, washed them down, the shouting, the smoke.
What a beautiful day in Saskatchewan, Tim. Holy smokes, man. Where are we off to?
Well, we're off to my garden. One of the licenses, I have 2 designate licenses. One I keep back at my office, and the other license I use to go and help set up other farmers. I grow with them for for my license contract, and usually teach them all the ins and outs about it, and then I kind of move that license to the next location and help set up these family farms to help people, you know, make some type of supplementary income growing cannabis, making it actually a profession for them, because it's a crop worth planting, that's for sure.
And you got a license from Health Canada to do this stuff. Why do you think you need a license? I mean, why is cannabis still illegal here? What's going on?
That's a good question. You know, well, especially when you see it out in the prairies, like when they founded the province out in Saskatchewan here, marijuana and hemp were one of the largest manufactured crops at the time they found this province, and if it was right out legalized, I know this province would definitely be the ones growing it. And maybe that's a big threat to some big industries in other provinces and things, but it's just a lot of money involved in what that plant can actually do, because we all talk about hemp and how it has 55,000 industrial applications. Well, marijuana shares every common thing with that plant, but adding one more beautiful thing, and that it's a medicine and it's helping cure people of cancer and helping people alleviate their pain.
So you think marijuana is illegal because it's worth so much?
Industry, yeah. Industry is the only reason why it's illegal, in my opinion.
How you like your bacon? Crispy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
On the run.
I don't see any birds that you normally see whipping around in fields.
Gotta know by now that this ain't
Smells like weed.
Gotta rip it on down and start again.
The hemp business is done. The hemp business is a joke. I could make one phone call and shut the whole goddamn thing down. When I first came into this business, every farmer in Canada, huge numbers of farmers in Western Canada, like 3,000 farmers, were growing hemp seeds to sell as planting seed. That's the only basis for this business. All these farmers thought, oh, this is, government has shut down our milk. Government has shut down our chickens. Government has shut down our wheat. Government has shut down our pigs. Here's a new business we can get into. Government hasn't fucked this one up yet. And so all these farmers, thousands and thousands of them, started growing planting seed. What for? To sell to other farmers as planting seed, thinking that this is going to be this big fucking miracle crop and everybody's going to start eating hemp. Oh yeah, not likely. There wasn't even anybody that knew how to take the shells off of it, and there wasn't any markets for the fiber, and there still isn't.
Hey there, we're at Rocky Mountain Grain Company, where they sell all kinds of things hemp, and this is what they call their bar room. We're here with Teresa, and this is the bars that they sell. These are hemp bars made out of hemp seeds minus the shell, made into like a bar, and then topped with all kinds of different awesome toppings. They are 2 complete meals per bar, I believe.
Right, yes.
And they're so awesome, they're so tasty, and they really make you feel like you're full after not having very much of it, for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, this is the bar room. Those are the bar samples. Where do we go from here, Teresa?
From here, we're going to go out to a different building. They didn't.
How are you folks doing?
Good.
Hi. We're making a little documentary about hemp and prohibition and things like that, and we've ended up here. So, and what are these ladies doing?
Tina is the lady in the middle. She's a poor man. Anna is the other lady, and Mrs. Anna's sister Sarah.
And they are filling the sample bags.
They are filling our sample bags, yeah.
So how many sample bags a day do you guys get done?
Depends on how long we do them, because we make bars.
Okay, so in an hour, how many would you put together?
Oh, lot. About 8,000.
About 8,000 an hour?
800.
800 an hour. And these are just sample bags, so there's no return on these other than advertising and getting the product out there.
Exactly. People
Wow.
can taste them, yeah.
What a great business strategy that is, because you've got a product that sells itself once it's been tasted by people.
Exactly.
Until I started telling Canadians why they should buy hemp hearts, there was no industry. When I first started, I phoned 2,000 health food stores, and I said, I am making a product called Hemp Hearts. It's a shelled hemp seed. It provides amazing energy. It satisfies hunger in an amazing way, and it provides people with digestive health. They said, we're not interested. We've had hemp from Manitoba. It tastes like shit. People bring it back. It's disgusting, and we don't want any more hemp. We don't want anything to do with it. So, to all those thousands of health food stores, I said, I'm confident in my product. I'll supply it to you you at no cost. I'll supply you with a case of hemp hearts at no cost. I'll supply you with a case of oil at no cost. I'll supply you with a case of free samples so you can give samples to your customers at no cost. And I'll supply you with a display, a wooden and stainless steel display unit at no fucking cost. And you can, and they said, well, how are you going to make any money? And I said, after the stuff is sold, you can pay me for it if you like. And I'll ship to you, I'll ship more to you. So if I phoned 2,000 stores, 2 of them would do that. They were so disgusted with what was going on in the hemp industry in Canada that out of 2,000 stores, 2 of them would do that. And the only reason they would do it is because I agreed they could keep the stand when it failed.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hemp? Cannabis? Marijuana? What's going on here? We've been tripping around trying to get to the bottom of this highly controversial issue of why is cannabis still illegal? For the opinion of some progressive law enforcers, we sought out LEAP member Dennis Young to get the thoughts of a former policeman.
So you're a member of LEAP, which is Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And tell us a bit about LEAP. How many members?
About 10,000 members, most of them in the States. It is all, you have to be, to get into LEAP as a speaker, you have to have been sort of on the hammer side of the law. So we don't take defense lawyers.
Right.
We take judges, we take prosecutors, we take cops.
Right.
And so people who are the best, I would say no one is more informed of the use and effects of drugs than a street cop. I learned a lot about what policing is, and you have basically the revenue generators, which traffic, fining people and that sort of thing. So you're basically you're paid to attack the public. And then when a serious crime occurs, I stopped one offense in 6 years as it happened. Right. So generally, a crime happens and police go along later with a mop.
Right.
So we're attacking decent citizens for their cash, and we're not protecting them from violence other than to charge the offender if we catch them.
And how do the police feel about the drug users?
Well, they look at it as the most basic, simple issue is it's illegal. I bust people who do illegal things, and that's the end of the thought from the perspective.
So they're not putting much thought into what they're doing?
No.
Like when you look across Canada, we have 20,000 RCMP members, sworn members, and plus our provincial and our municipal police force. I mean, there's tens of thousands of policemen across the country. So I think generally speaking, most of our members are very, they do their job to the letter of the law, and
they're getting stats, just like. You come back at the end of a day and your boss says, well, what did you do today? Let's see your tickets, let's see your criminal charges, and you better have some or they're going to start saying, well, what are we paying you for?
I see my friends every day, trying to live their lives your way. While you're worried about the rent, well, they're living in pain, but you won't.
Prohibition is helping anybody. I believe it's actually hurting our society more than it's helping. It's not changing the flow of drugs. It's not changing the flow of money. It's not stopping the gangs. It's enabling them, and it's helping them get stronger. It's helping them fund everything that they're doing, and they're destroying our youth. They're destroying our children. It's keeping our children in the poverty level that they're at, because either you go to school and you come out of university with a $50,000 debt load that you start out your life with, or you sell drugs and you don't have a debt load. You're blinging. You're doing great things. You're driving around in a fancy car. You're buying boats. You're going on fancy trips, right? And the poor kid that spent 4 years in university is plugging away to barely pay rent, to eat craft dinner, and then comes out of school with a $50,000 debt load. How is that helping our youth?
I have noticed that is something I've personally experienced, I know with other activists and other people who have been victims of the drug war, that what tends to happen with women is that they will go after, men they tend to go after their financial security. That's what tends to hit men. I'm going to take away your ability to make a living, to support your family, that sort of thing. So judges tend to, I'm going to stick you in jail so you can't work, or somehow limit their ability to have an income. Women, more often than not, they tend to go for family first. There seems to be so much collateral damage often when you bring in, especially a mother who has children. You're talking about not just affecting that person, but the kids afterwards and their whole viewpoint, or if you're taking their father, same thing. It's their whole viewpoint will be changed forever.
Look at all the commercials for pharmaceuticals on TV. You've got 15 seconds of commercial and 15 seconds of disclaimers about what might happen to you.
Hair loss and impotence and
death.
And ultimately death, exactly.
And with cannabis, well, what is it? Happy, hungry, sleepy?
Yeah.
I can
and
get
no
along
death.
with those.
No death.
No death.
So here we are in Calgary with activist extraordinaire and founder of the 420 Calgary 420 group, Keith Fagan. You've had lots of actions and protests and things that you've done there.
Amazing.
Just tell me a few that stand out in your memory.
April 20, 2006 was a big one. The City Hall was very angry with me. I tried to get permits for the park, and they were very angry. They were adamant that they were going to stop me at all costs, and they were, Bible thumping kind of situation, hell's brimstone and fire, kind of situation, and we're going to arrest you, we're going to bylaw ticket you, we're going to stop you at all costs. This is inappropriate for our city. Well, we do have a Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, sir, and I am going to exercise my right to do so. So April 20th comes around, we go down there, and lo and behold, there's a whole bunch of police lined up in the park waiting for us. So we were, there was only a few of us, and we were fearful. I was concerned. I decided to heck with this. I parked my truck, I jumped out, I went in front of the police, I set down my briefcase, I grabbed a sign, and I proudly marched back and forth in front of them, chanting the slogans and whatnot. A few minutes later, Grant Krieger, my wife, and the other people started to join us. And after a while of protesting and the police not arresting me or ticketing me, I'm surprised at this point, Grant Krieger has MS, and he has a court exemption to be able to consume it legally. So he pulled out a joint to consume it. You could see him trembling, and he needed it. It was necessary. And he sparked up his joint. Police come over to him, grabbed him, gave him a $100 ticket, took his cannabis away from him. And I told them, and Grant told them, we're going to get a lawyer, we're going to fight you, we're going to play your game, we're going to work with your rules, and we're going to win. So we took it to court, the $100 ticket. The lawyer was $300. But the best $300 we ever spent, Neil.
Yeah.
The sergeant went up to testify, and the judge threw it out within 2 minutes. The lawyer got 3 questions out, and it was tossed out there on the spot.
Well, here we are at one of my favorite places. We're in Regina, Saskatchewan, and we're at the Head-to-Head Hemp and Head Shop. And Tim Solinsky, I believe, is waiting for us inside. Come and have a look.
You don't know shit. You fucking assholes. You didn't get my vote. You don't give a fuck. You drive a big truck. You fucking assholes. You didn't get my vote. And we are all just prisoners of war. 'Cause just like you, got locked on my door. You're nothing but a bitch. You'll get real rich. line there that was about Harper, but you can't put that one in there. Harper, you fucking scum. Like to keep me in the bum for bringing war to our doors and taking money from the poor.
Wow. This issue has certainly got some good people very upset. This whole thing just doesn't make sense. Could it really be that powerful groups making tons of money due to prohibition have suppressed a miracle plant? And what about freedom? Is Canada not a free country? If what we are hearing is true, then, well, it seems maybe cannabis should not still be illegal.
It's hard to believe he does this indoors. What do you got there, Tim?
What's that?
It's just a branch, man.
That's a branch.
That's a branch. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
What strain is that?
Dude. This is Sensi Star. Look at that
Star.
top nug on there. It's pretty insane. Large and in charge.
Wow, that's sick, dude. That's a beaut. Look at the hair.
Like, I just spent 8 hours detained the other day for supposedly driving under the influence of a narcotic. Okay, just because he smelt marijuana in my car made me do a sobriety test in my flip-flops in the rain, and still said that I failed the sobriety test when he clearly was prejudiced about what I did for a living. It took me 7 hours of, like you said, talking with him, reasoning with him, explaining to him what I do for a living. That I'm not a drug dealer. I help people acquire cannabis and teach them how to grow cannabis, and and the funniest thing was, I think the only reason why I left that without a criminal charge is the question that he asked me was, what's the hardest part of my job? And I told him the hardest part of my job was trying to convince people to stay away from the black market, because the profit margin is so huge, it forces people into being drug dealers. And that's why I have to be very careful with who I help, with what I'm doing with helping SAS grow, because if we're giving somebody a product that literally by Health Canada standards is worth $300 to $500 an ounce, and we're giving it them for free, what's to stop them from selling it? Because majority of these people who are using marijuana as a medicine are on disability, workers' compensation, and workers' compensation's cutting them off because they don't want to pay for their medical marijuana, so now they're cut off. What are they going to do? Well, if you're getting help from people like myself who aren't charging these ridiculous set prices in our market, where literally marijuana before prohibition was cheaper than coffee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're just selling a sandwich bag, and that's how it's so easy for me to convince farmers who have farmland that this is an agricultural application. Their 10 acres, I can teach them how to get a bag so big that's worth just as much as your 10 acres, and you can stay at home with your family, you can teach your kids how to do it, you do it in a small greenhouse, and this could produce enough income for that family to disperse throughout our province. And that's what it's about. We're not about setting up these giant greenhouses that have thousands of plants. Like, everybody bitches about plant count with Health Canada. Oh, I can only grow 20 plants. Well, it's not enough. Well, man, this was one. And you can't tell me that that's not enough for one person.
Oh, yeah, for
You
sure.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we try to focus on abundance, create more so that we can donate it to people, and just research the effects of certain strains after testing the CBN, the CBD, and the THC levels. I'm trying to show people that marijuana is an agricultural application. Saskatchewan is a global leader, not only in diamonds, and potash, and oil, uranium. We are global leaders in marijuana production. Unfortunately, because this is where the RCMP are trained, we have a very high ratio of young recruits that think that marijuana is the devil. They are played into this brainwashing that they've had for so many years, and they go on these power trips and they ruin kids' futures of traveling and good jobs. So a lot of the farmers end up moving west, which is where you get BC bud.
We got a lot of good Saskatchewan growers in BC.
Every good grower I've met out in BC came from the prairies. Yeah. My life has been hell for the last 10 years of doing this, and I had no idea what I was signing up for when I originally got this license. When the program first started, I didn't realize that my house would depreciate 50%. I didn't realize that I wouldn't be allowed insurance anymore. I didn't realize that I was going to end up in a cop car every weekend because I smell like marijuana. You know what I mean?
But it's still worth it, in your opinion.
When I see people coming to me in tears
because of what I've done to their lives in the last, even in the first month of using medical cannabis versus things like Oxycontin or people on the methadone programs. It's overwhelming, and it's enough. Like, I am not a compassion club. I do not ever want to confuse my shop as a compassion club. I am not a dispensary, but I'm a compassionate person.
You cut down an old wise tree. Instead of planting one that grows annually. You put us on your drugs. You know what's better for us. You chose profit over humanity.
What's your name, sir?
My name's Lord.
And you're all right if we ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's still a crime to possess cannabis?
Well, because a lot of people misuse it. What they do is they get hyped up on its after effects, which can be quite deadly in the end. But what they do is they go and they cause riots or, kill somebody or something like that.
That seems to me to be a rather complicated question involving a lot of social and political mores, and I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Why do you think it's still a criminal offense to have cannabis in Canada?
Well, the government's not getting their cut yet.
Because it alters the mind of human beings, and we're afraid of anything that alters our minds.
I think that, to a point though, if everybody starts doing it, then it might get out of hand to some certain kind of circumstances or something that comes up. And
Wild marijuana parties in the middle of the street or something. Do you think it should be illegal?
not really.
I don't have enough information in my own mind, and as I get older, I realize the more that I get old, the less that I know for sure. So I'm not prepared because I'm not in possession of the information to know that.
So I get the feeling you're not in favor of the criminalization of cannabis possessors.
No, I'm not in favor of it, but I don't smoke cannabis either.
Right, no, that's fine.
I'm not in favor of cannabis, and I'm not in favor of the illegalization of it.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Well, here we are. We're actually in Saskatoon, and we're here with Jeff. He's a legal designated grower for Health Canada. And,
proud
legal grower, and he's been kind enough to show us what he's got going on here, and now he produces medicine for people. So give us a look and see what's going on here, Jeff.
Welcome to my grow room. Yeah, they're coming along quite nicely. We're going to fire up the other two lamps, that lamp and that lamp, spread them out so they can finish filling up in their last 6, 7, and 8 weeks. Depending on the sativas, might stretch out to 9. So,
right on. Look beautiful.
Yeah, they're coming along.
So what week are they in now?
Just the beginning of week 5, so just like 4 days into week 5. So they still got their big production time. 6, 7, and 8 are when they're really going to start to fill out, and the resin glands and the THC glands are really going to start to shine through. You're going to start to see more sugar coating on the leaves. I mean, it's exciting when you get to this, to the week 5. This is where she really starts to show you what it can do, and the pure medicinal nature of what this plant has in store for everybody who ingests it or inhales it. Okay, so in the back is Mystery Alaska. I haven't flowered that breed. I'm looking, she's a beautiful mom. There's real healthy clones on there, so I'm looking to introduce her into our next crop. Blueberry Haze, this is a strain that I saved from a guy who actually got busted, and he's thanking me now because a week after he gave me his genetics, he got caught by the police in a very random act of break and enter. That was a drunk guy stumbled into their home, and he wasn't there, and the police got called, and they consequently found his grow room. It was kind of crazy. So he's thankful that I have them because now they're legal, not only legal, but I can give him his genetics back when he gets his shit straightened out. Down here looking a little straggly just because she just got some water is my Jack Cleaner mom, which is some of the ones you've seen in the main flowering room. This is a Kush phenotype. I don't know much about the genetics because it was a gift from a friend. Down there is the Agent Orange, which is a beautiful producer. One of Tim's personal favorites. And then that little guy right there is the Blueberry. And that's a pure indica strain. and we're working. So Jack Cleaner, Agent Orange, and Blueberry are what are in our main garden right now, with Mystery Alaska and Blueberry Haze for the next rounds.
I went into the medicinal program about 3 years ago. I had arthritis pretty bad here, and from taking like Tylenol and that over the years, I ruined my liver. So I can't take painkillers of any sort anymore. So my doctor and the specialist for liver put me on medicinal marijuana. I don't know, it just worked for me, and ever since it's worked for me, and that's how I got this far. Oh yeah, and this is what happened. I don't know, it's hereditary, they say. And I'm a diabetic too. I do 49 needles a week, 7 a day.
What do they call this?
They call this, gee, I got the whole forms here, but
arthritis.
Yeah, it is a degenerative rheumatoid arthritis, eh? And it's in even my thumbs, eh? But all we need is more room, you know, like, right? I had to get rid of a lot of stuff to get up this part, you know?
It's a big problem in Saskatchewan. If that can't hear us, we'll go out of here for this. But commercial operations and people that aren't willing to rent to guys because of insurance problems, because of safety problems. I mean, the police don't even want to talk to us about the safety concerns, and I know because I've had my grow room broken into. So, you know, they're not looking to talk, they just want to treat you like the common criminal. And we're talking about big business. Like, I mean, if they're growing commercially in BC and they're growing commercially in Ontario, why the fuck are we not growing commercially in Saskatchewan? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
You know it doesn't make sense. You know it doesn't make sense.
Is this your limit? No.
I have 25 plants for myself, and I have 25 plants for my wife, right?
Right.
So we have a 50 plant limit.
Right.
10 plants is.
10 plants, and you've got some cuttings.
Yep.
Cool.
You know, so everything we're well within our limits. We're very happy with what we're allowed to do.
Yeah.
It's very simple. You know.
Simple is best, isn't it? That's when it becomes an art form. Is when
And
it's
I
simple.
don't, and you know what? And I don't take any other kind of drugs. No.
Wow, you don't take any other type of
Nothing.
No
Nothing.
pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely not.
With your past history of broken neck, and you're not on any pharmaceuticals.
No, nothing. I don't know how it came about, but I just said, weed helps. I've always known that. Ever since I was 15 years old, it was the argument was alcohol or weed. Since because I was brought up in a family of drinkers. Weed was so bad.
Yeah.
Even back in 1975.
Weed was so bad.
Even in 1975, when we were smoking Mexican, it was so bad.
Just you and me at this point. I mean,
it was 20 years ago, and I went to jail because I beat her so bad that I put her in the hospital for 5 days. That was the last fucking day that I had a drink of alcohol, you know?
Yeah.
And they want to put me in jail for smoking fucking weed? Like, come fucking on, man.
Yeah.
And in that 20 years, we've been through a lot of hell, eh?
Group hug. Group hug. I don't care about the tobacco.
For once, Neil doesn't care about tobacco.
Christianity has been hijacked by Satan, and he's living in the hearts and minds of right-wing conservatives.
Like Stephen Harper. Yeah, eh?
I think it's time for a change. Rethink things always.
It does seem as though something has taken over those who are supposed to serve the public good in the case of cannabis prohibition. The number of people upset about the law has been growing steadily, and the sound of the protests has become a roar. Our trip has now taken us back to Vancouver, where for over a decade the annual 420 rally on April 20th has now become a mainstream festival of defiance, with open selling of cannabis and tens of thousands lighting up in protest of the laws.
Yo, I'm talking about in the mix. Bringing home some new shit.
Here, on this day, you can find cannabis for sale in all of its forms and strains. A self-regulated farmers market and celebration of the cannabis culture, and devoid of all of the problems associated with alcohol, its legal rival.
Everything was new, countless shit I didn't like, but I had to make it through. I had to find my thing, then this idea grew, turned into my life, and now this is what I do. But the past is in the past, and there it remains. It's time to break the cycle, go with the flow of the grain. This little blood we've been given, the liquid in our veins gives us strength to numbers. Now the advantage has changed, I'm just searching for my purpose in life. What is it? Gotta make priorities, replace what's missing. Start with the basics, but everyone is different. Increase our knowledge of the land we've been given. We got incredible tools to heal a generation. From going through school to rocking shows in the basement, adolescence to teenhood, we go through so many changes. When we find what we love, well then nothing can never replace it.
Got love for my people, love for my friends.
Awesome celebration with everybody here to celebrate our culture. So pass around the love and celebrate a wonderful 4/20/2011 and free my memories.
May 31st, 1990, I was born to a single mother, always being stuck in the storm. People used to pick on me when I was in school. Father told me to leave, so I never saw the full. Grade 8 was the year that finally changed my life. First time I played guitar when her deftones right. Heard Jaw speak to me, now I can finally see that anger is the road to the devil's deep and dark. See, I promise to be strong, always be there for my mom, but vow to hold the gun, separate myself for fun, be a seeker of light, learn the secrets of life. Hope that I can change times, face the wars all around.
Let's thank those righteous growers who have kicked down all these years. Big warm round of applause for the people who grow our marijuana for us. You imagine. Wow. Happy 420 Vancouver! On behalf of Mark Emery and Michelle Rainey and all of us in the cannabis culture, I'd like to sing you "Oh Cannabis" the way we do it here. Oh cannabis, the sacred plant of peace, with healing powers, it helps our eyes to see. With a glowing joint, we make the point that the true north should be free. With wise red eyes, we criticize this war against humanity. God, keep our stash from the police. Oh, cannabis, we stand here high for thee. Oh, cannabis, the sacred plant of peace. Go, Canucks, go!
While in Vancouver, we visited the Pot Block, which is at the hub of the fight against the prohibition of cannabis and home to many Western Canadian activists. At the center of the block is Mark Emery's cannabis culture headquarters, and that's where pot activist extraordinaire David Malmo Levine has been busy building his herb museum on the second floor.
There was a good thing that also came out of the herb school, aside from the example we set and the people we met. I managed to start collecting old, ancient artifacts, herbal artifacts, and create a herb museum.
Herb museum.
If you guys have a minute, I'd like to show you some of the highlights of the herb museum. I have a collection of old cannabis and medicine bottles that you might want to check out.
So not just pictures on the wall, we can see some cabinets.
Well,
and some...
it's not open to the public, but you guys aren't the public. You guys are my friends.
You were talking to the public. Right now you are talking to the public.
We're going to sneak the public into my herb museum. Good that you have a light too, because the city has denied us an occupancy permit for this place, and I don't have a light. So you're going to be the light, and I'll just be the expert out there.
The herb museum was a place that existed a little ways up Hastings Street and came about just before the end of the herb school due to its being raided. And
separated
for quite a while.
I spent $2,000 on lighting here, and the city cuts off our electricity. This is the room of the non-psychoactive botanicals, the things from plants that heal your body, and the synthetics. It's kind of covered right now, but there's also non-plant drugs in this display case, just to give people a comparison and to be able to talk about them a little bit. But as you can see, a lot of those old medicine bottles are over 100 years old. And most of them are in things that, like capsicum, that's pepper, dandelion, yam. These are like foods, and blackberries and orange. These are foods and medicines. It's really interesting stuff. The more I learn about herbs, the more I want to learn about herbs.
Your museum, which is one of the most fabulous places I've ever witnessed on the planet, with all of this amazing information, is also being withheld and prohibited and held back because of bureaucracy and governments that, for whatever reason, don't want this truth to get out because it's embarrassing to them, for one thing.
Yeah, things that benefit powerful people tend to accidentally happen, and things that like harm us also tend to accidentally happen.
It's an amazing coincidence is how all that happens, isn't it?
You walk in here, you can see this is a room of psychoactive botanicals, plants that mess with your mind. And over here, I'll just take you to the highlight. You can see this is a Scythian gold coin, and the Scythians were notorious cannabis users. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's a Shiva, a god, and he's sprinkling something over an incense altar. And he's kind of getting high there. And this is what he would be sprinkling his buds into, his hot rocks, and rocks that have been heated on a fire. And they had little tent poles, and they used to actually have an ancient hotbox device. This is another ancient hotbox device here, but this is not Scythian, this is Assyrian, this is from Iraq. Now this is the altar that you'd sprinkle, that's probably where you burn the incense. And see these curtains here, you put your head right in there, and you hotbox the curtain box there, and you get super high. And this is the cannabis plant, the tree of life they call it. And it's everywhere, it's all sorts of stylized versions of it. Here's another version of Assyrian tree of life, sacred tree. Here's another version. And here's one from India around 2,000 years ago. And this is really neat too. This is a woodcut from a German herbal from 1565, hand-colored. That is almost 500-year-old marijuana plant, but they called it, of course, cannabis then. And here is the most impressive part of the entire museum. All these medicine bottles, all of them, are cannabis medicine bottles, many of them from major pharmaceutical companies. And the same thing with the fuel industry, is that the guys who had the power to have a whole bunch of politicians in their pocket and to push these laws through were the oil companies. Basically guys like Andrew Mellon and John Rockefeller. And these guys owned Standard Oil and Gulf Oil, and they had a lot of influence in politicians that they'd give campaign contributions to. Even Roosevelt was a Rockefeller employee, really. They owned the medical schools, they owned the media, and they owned the hemp substitutes. And they didn't want to have to compete with farmers for their fuel and their medicine. So that's basically how cannabis became illegal. It started racist, and then they realized, hey, the stuff that they're smoking, you can run your cars off it. Henry Ford's doing that right now in the 30s and 40s. But they said, well, let's just make it illegal. So in 1937 they did, and they had a big media push, and you can see photographs like that of people lined up around the block to see these movies. Assassin of Youth, Unmarried, Marijuana Weed with Roots in Hell.
You know, there's probably some validity for or reason for regulations, justification for regulations.
The high-risk drugs are the alcohol, the tobacco, and the pills. Those, you know, alcohol and tobacco just by themselves kill 99% of drug-related deaths. That's 99%. And then all the rest of the drugs put together, the third most dangerous category is pharmaceuticals. Alcohol, just pills? Alcohol and tobacco by themselves. Drug-related deaths. Wow. Yes. And then the third highest number on that list is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals, okay. The illegals are way down on the list below aspirin, and cannabis doesn't even make the list.
No, I blame it on industry.
With Mark Emery languishing in a U.S. prison after being given a sentence of 5 years for the crime of selling seeds, we visited with his wife, Jody, who gives us a glimpse into the lives of drug war widows.
You're such a role model for other people to have similar things going on. Many people have people in prison for cannabis offenses. And what are some of your coping mechanisms for that? How do you...
Well, first and foremost, I know that if it weren't for all the support that we receive from people, it wouldn't be the same story. I mean, every day, all day long, I get messages on Facebook or emails from people literally all over the world, South Africa, Finland, you know, just everywhere, writing to me and saying Mark has changed their life, he's inspired them. You know, 16-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, 60-year-old women, there's all sorts of people who reach out all the time, every day, and tell me how much Mark means to them and how grateful they are, and they send their support. And I wish I could even get back to them. I feel bad because there are literally so many positive messages. I don't have the time to get back to them, but I'm so grateful for that, and I'm always very aware that most people don't have the support base we do, and that's why this drug war is so
You feel that, and that
I
helps.
feel that strength, and people come up and say, oh, I know it doesn't mean much, but I really support you, and I say it does mean a lot. You know, if nobody said that, I couldn't do this, and I really feel that the strength I get from people, I can pass it on to others. Like I feel, like you said, if I'm inspiring some people to get through it, even though they have, you know, their house being taken away and children they have to feed, and, you know, an imprisoned husband that they can't even go see, you know, there's far more people suffering worse than us. I mean, I feel like Mark and I are probably some of the most luckiest drug war prisoner and drug war widow, or whatever that you could call, to be honest. I mean, I've got to stay positive and think of those things, and really, I can't spend much time feeling sad, because
You don't have any time.
I don't have time, and how dare I give in to self-pitying when I have so much that others don't have, and so I really wish I could pass
This drug
it on
war is
to
a
them.
horrible thing, isn't it?
And it's heartbreaking, and the worst part is seeing the other families. These are normal people, like, you know, when people think of prisoners and they think hardened, bad, unloved people, these aren't. I go visit Mark, and these are regular families. These are so many children, and there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing a little child go running up to their father, screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," with their arms out, and him trying to be strong because he never gets to see them. There are thousands of prison cells being built, and there are not thousands of rapists and murderers out there. There are not. There are thousands of non-violent, peaceful people growing a couple plants to keep themselves alive, and we're gonna see. It makes me sick. I don't even know how. I want to scream and yell, Harper is so evil, but in the political sphere, you can't really just call someone evil without backing it up, and I'm trying to. I'm saying, how can you call someone who kills and hurts harmless people with the wars abroad and with the war here at home, how can you call someone who causes harm to the harmless not evil?
Another of the longtime activists on the block, Greg Williams, manager of Pot TV, sums it up quite succinctly.
But the government figured out after alcohol prohibition that it was good to be the gangster too. Right? If you got into the gangster side of it, you made all the money. So the corruption just becomes rampant. They just get in bed with the existing organized criminals, and they start laundering money. Like, in my research, they say that the laundering of money is keeping the world afloat here. It's drug money.
Yep.
So, wow.
Let's not end the drug war too quick, because, you know, it's our whole economy.
I saw an Oprah program some years ago. The whole program was dedicated to teenager crack cocaine addiction. That's all they talked about. But every time they went to a commercial, they would put up information about teenage crack addiction over a marijuana leaf. Because what other picture is there? You can't put a rock of cocaine, no one knows what that is. A pile of heroin? A needle? Not on Oprah. You put a pot leaf, because that is the poster child of drugs. When they say drugs, they don't mean pot, but that's what they show you. So they keep it out there, keep it out there, keep it out there. There's always a story about marijuana. It's always bad. There's never a story about cocaine or heroin. In Canada in 2000, the number of incidents the police were involved in with cannabis was 66,000. With heroin, it was 1,200. Cocaine, it was 30,000. Right? If they arrested cocaine, they arrest cannabis users currently 220 a day. If you arrested heroin users at that rate, there would be none left in 5 days. They don't. They don't do anything with the cocaine, they don't do anything with the heroin. You never read about it, you never hear about it.
It's just the crack houses and the marijuana.
When you look at the UN drug report, they say that use has stabilized. That's what they say about those two drugs. The use has stabilized.
But the use of marijuana is going up, so that's
use
still
of
a concern.
marijuana is going up, which it always will because it's a good thing to do.
Most people that try it like it.
And people want to do it.
Wow is right. So the whole prohibition was just based on lies about it making people crazy? Is it really just about protecting some big money interests? And now the profits off those illegal drug sales is what's keeping the world economy afloat? Wow, indeed.
I'm the king of all the vipers. And I mean, I smoke my weed. It makes me feel kind of happy when I'm in need. Dreams come from my weed all day long. Puts my heart at ease in sweet dreams. Fragrance from my weeds, it sends me, oh how that tea sends me. All vipers love them as rose, love it good and strong. Dreams come from my weed, honey, all day long. Weed, 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 all day long. Puts my heart at ease in sweet dreams. The fragrance from my weed, it sends me, oh how that tea sends me. All vipers love them as rose, love it good and strong. Dreams come from my weed, honey, all day long. Thank you.
So far, we've been hearing voices from the West, and now our trip is taking us east to Toronto for the Treating Yourself Expo to see just how mainstream the cannabis culture has become there, and to hear the voices of some Eastern Canadian activists who are working to have cannabis regulated and legalized.
So we're outside the Treating Yourself Expo in Toronto with the famous Bong Man. Great to see you here. A little bit about your history. How did it come to be that you became such a pot advocate?
Well, it was about 7 years ago. I was sitting in my art studio doodling. I was medicating. I medicate because I had a motorcycle accident when I was younger. My body hit a tree in the center of my back. I've had back problems ever since. Anyways, I was doodling, drawing a bong. I added some legs and some arms to it and a cape. Next thing you know, a creation was born.
So you're here to educate that cannabis, when used properly, is a safe product?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all about moderation.
Moderation, so safe bonging?
Absolutely. Always change your bong water daily.
I see. Yeah. Well, we're at the Treating Yourself Expo with Michael Lazaria, and we're at the Canadian Cannabis Learning Center. And so tell us a little bit about how it came to be for you. What got you into doing this type of thing?
Well, Neil, my wife and I, my lovely wife Denise, back a couple of years ago, we were looking for a niche, something that we could do to help the cannabis community, because we've been consumers. I've been a consumer over 30 years myself, and we were looking for something we could do to help the community, so we founded a school, the Canadian Cannabis Learning Center, to help people get their MMAR cards. And so we were helping people with the paperwork because, as you know, anybody who's ever applied, when you talk to the government, you start out with a stack like this. We reduced it to just a few papers so we could really help get the process moving for people.
Right. And you say you've been a consumer for 30 years or so.
Oh, yeah.
So you've had experience with the laws and the differences in the laws, and were you always an advocate pretty much?
Always, for sure, for freedom. Freedom of any type where you're not harming anybody, of course.
Right.
And I just think that the laws are ridiculous. There's no reason for them whatsoever.
Right.
And I just thank God that I'm in Canada, because we are one of the most lenient countries in the world for our laws at this point. And they're going to get a lot more lenient in the next couple of years. We're working with Matt Myrna, an activist here in Toronto.
Yeah.
The CCLC is actively working with Matt.
Right.
And there's big changes coming down the pike in the next couple of years, mark my words.
Yeah. You've seen the effects of taking copious amounts of the pharmaceutical, modern day medicine, if you will.
Yep.
And you've seen the effects of taking copious amounts of cannabis.
Of cannabis in whatever format, yes.
And how would you compare the two experiences?
Like night and day. I'm able to...
What happens to you on the pharmaceuticals?
You sit there drooling and falling asleep and just a zombie on the couch.
And cannabis?
I can get up and be the husband and the father that I need to be to my family.
Right on.
It's very much an environmental issue for me. I believe in industrial hemp. I'm a non-consumer, but I do believe that cannabis should be legalized to provide food, fuel, and fiber for the world.
Well, to me, you don't look like stupid stoners. You look kind of normal.
Thank you.
Normal is exactly, and I mean it's been around since the mid '70s, and so it's a well recognized, and it's really focused on cannabis. There's a lot of activism out there that sometimes sort of overflows into other spheres and stuff, but we are really the organization to reform marijuana laws, and that's our objective.
I think it's time for a change, to rethink things our way. Gotta know by now that this ain't working. Gotta rip it on down and start again. You know it doesn't make sense. You know it doesn't make sense.
So we're here at Treating Yourself Expo with Allison Merton, and she's a LEAP representative. We're in the LEAP booth here, and Allison, tell me a little bit about how it came to be for you that you end up being here and doing this.
You bet. Well, I actually have been battling chronic progressive multiple sclerosis, since I was a young child, about 12 or 13.
See.
And I've been battling a violent pain in my face for the last 20 years called tic-doulourou, the worst pain known to medicine. So about 20 years ago or more, I was on a mission to find something to give me relief for the pain in my face, other than all the pharmaceuticals that doctors kept putting me on all over the world, including 32 pills a day and up to 2,000 milligrams of morphine daily for about 18 years. I went from 600 milligrams to 2,000 every day for 18 years.
Wow.
So never had a break. Doctors offered me heroin and cocaine. I lost 13 pounds the first week I took heroin and thought never again. They begged me to try it longer, and I said absolutely not. They then gave me cocaine. I could not stop running. I couldn't sleep for about a week, and I finally said no more. I'm done. A friend left a medical marijuana cigarette on my bedside table one day after a week of me going back and forth to every pain specialist all over this end of Canada for help. And bottom line, left me this marijuana cigarette. I fought them every step of the way because I was a law enforcement officer, still at the time working, and not ready to give up my career and lose it for any kind of drug like anybody else and get arrested. So bottom line, I kept it a secret. Then I felt I had to speak out once I realized I smoked that marijuana cigarette. 10 minutes later, I was singing a song to the radio and making my bed for the first time in a week. I was at my doctor's the next morning. I got my first prescription for medical marijuana, and that, people, was 1994.
Cannabis, if it's going to be legal as a drug, is the friendly drug.
It's the friendly drug.
Everyone's going, oh, it's the marijuana war.
We don't wage war. We're
right.
too mellow.
We need to make sure as activists that we are tuned in and that we use all our means to influence government and government, your MPs, whether it's a conservative or New Democrat, I guess. And it's our now job in the next 2 years. I've kicked in the door. Me and Paul Lewin, we have kicked in the door. How things happen from here is going to require people to be not involved with me, but involved with government, because government is going to start seeking our input.
Come on, Mr. Harper. With marijuana, it's a matter of a substance, a plant that's been around and being used by people for thousands of years. And what, suddenly you want to lock people up for using pot? Or not suddenly, but you want to increase penalty? You know, I don't even know what you're doing, Mr. Harper. To be honest with you, it's ridiculous, it's oppressive, it's unfair, and it's simply silly. Let's stop it.
Let's stop talking and start doing. And building more jails is not, in my view, the answer. Prohibition in and of itself, we've shown that prohibition doesn't work. Prohibition, look at Mexico. Mass homicides, not just singular homicide, mass homicide. Canada is a wonderful country, but Canada can't sit back and say we're immune. Because we're not immune. And if there's that much money involved, they'll bring out the heavy weapons in order to get what they want, which is money. It's about money. And we can't, I don't want to see individuals who are on the line in terms of their sustenance in our community step over the line because of the money involved with drugs and then wind up in some pit, gravel pit in Northern Ontario.
We got it going on. We the gangs are here alive and well. I'm from British Columbia.
So
we got problems.
So when you talk about decriminalization, everybody's got to take all those factors into consideration. Police are not, I don't think in Toronto or the OPP, I don't think at any time that they've exaggerated the situation. But their hands are tied in terms of decriminalization because they're subject to the laws just as we are.
You can't even use the word overindulging in marijuana. You can't. I have tried, and it is not possible to overuse cannabis.
I can't do it on my own. I can't take all the credit. It's everyone. It's a whole community. It's a community effort. Treating yourself as a community effort. It's not.
Oh man, you know me, Neil. You know exactly my story. You know how much I appreciate this and love this. You know how much it was worth coming to Toronto, wasn't it?
I see my friends every day.
The din is becoming too loud to ignore, and there are so many people who are dedicated to doing something about it. We've heard from them all that attempting to prohibit cannabis is causing a lot of harm and costing us a lot of money. Yet there doesn't seem to be any logical justification. So the burning question remains, why is cannabis still illegal?
Everybody squishing a kiss out there, and please take care and pass this on to all your friends everywhere. We want this global. Thanks, guys. Peace out.
Hello.
Hi, is this?
Yes, it is.
Hi, my name is Jade Ridge. You just phoned me?
Oh, yes.
Hi, how are you today?
Well, not bad, thank you. I thank you for getting back to me.
Oh, no problem. How can I help you?
The doctor has given me your card.
Okay, perfect.
And all the paperwork is getting sent in.
Oh, okay. So how can I help you then?
Well, I know nothing.
Okay. You know nothing about cannabis itself?
Right. I'm 54.
Okay.
And I can honestly say, back in the 60s, 70s, never used it.
Okay.
So I know nothing about it.
Okay, well, that's great. I'm so glad you contacted me. You know, I have a frequently asked question information sheet. I was wondering if maybe you and I can get together on a personal basis, maybe do coffee or tea.
That would be really good.
Okay, great. And then what I can do is I'll bring some information. Do you like to bake? I have a drawn up a frequently asked questions type of thing about medical marijuana. It just goes through basic questions. I've actually going to be revising this one pretty soon. I've had some more patients come to me with questions. Like this lady that we're going to see today, she doesn't smoke it, so I'm bringing a vaporizer and also some cookies that I made. And some lactamina cooking oil she can use in stir fries or baking. These are my cookies. These are orange infused candied bacon chocolate chip canna cookies. The trick to these are going to be my trademark cookies, but the trick to these cookies, you have to eat them upside down. People say why? Say don't ask me why, just do it. What I also do is I do strain mapping, which is documentation of specific strains for patients based on their diagnoses. Nobody likes to keep track of what strain they just had last week or the week before, and you know, said, geez, I wish I had some of that right now because, you know, I'm feeling this type of achiness today. Well, I can put a patient on maybe about, you know, between 2 and 4 different strains bi-weekly, and have them experiment with them, some during the day and some during the night to help sleep deprived patients, for instance. All right, so now I'm going to mark them quickly.
So is this typical of what you do for a new patient, like, or is this a little extra special?
This is extra special. Basically, minus the drugs, minus the cookbook and the edibles, I would just have like this in my orientations. This is a little special. She's been suffering for a long time. She's getting liver disease because of these medications she's been on, taking all sorts of opiates and whatnot, and she's sick. She's like, she's gonna be dying if she doesn't stop, you know. So this is what a little extra special. It's got a little bit more love behind it. Yeah. I mean, if a doctor goes and writes your prescription, and you know, if for Marinol or whatever, or a triplicate for, you know, morphine, and you're going in there, you can get it like, oh, what? Come back in 20 minutes. Okay, right. You know, great. You go in there, you get your prescription, good to go. Nope, we have to wait. This is a controlled substance. This is under this bill and this, and you know, why should we have to wait and suffer, you know, on something that's completely organic and good for you?
So for those who are able to find a doctor to sign and choose to grow for themselves, once the paperwork is done, submitted, and approved, it's time to get growing.
I think this is going to be a good shoot. It should be. Probably going to be one of the best shoots. I hope those greenhouses are warm, that's all I have to say.
So we're going to have a look at some of these medicinal plants you got going on here, and you're using sunlight in that process. This is not...
yeah, we're in a natural phase right now. You know, the greenhouses and facilities that I set up to try to eliminate a lot of the carbon footprint that comes along with indoor growing. We still use synthetic lights in the winters, obviously, to add a little bit of supplemental light, but right now we're on a natural cycle. This is fall. We don't have to run our auto flowering chambers. You'll see in the greenhouse there's remnants of curtains that shut down and control the environment, which is why these plants are a little smaller than usual. And again, maybe I'm desensitized because they're not that small. But again, these weren't vegged throughout the whole year. You try to do a staggered rotation to stay within all your limits with Health Canada. You don't need arbitrary licenses of, you know, 300 grams a day. I don't know too many people who could ingest that much marijuana. You can use the licenses as they say. But you maybe got to work a little harder. And you know, I'm proud to say I'm a good hard worker. A lot of people appreciate that I work so hard. But yeah, this illegal grow, I think there's only about maybe 20 plants left in there. It's a 25 plant grow exemption. The man that I grow for has got 5 gram exemption, so I'm allowed to grow 25 plants indoors. I heard you get increased numbers if you grow outdoors, but I don't know if you'd ever want to grow outdoor marijuana, the rain, just so many added variables when it comes to growing outdoors that, yeah, it's still a medicine if you were to harvest the THC off of it, but for a smoke, I don't know, like if somebody's going to be ingesting it on in an inhalation, you'd probably want it to be put in a sterile environment, and greenhouses are pretty much as sterile as you can get outdoors without using synthetic lights and all that extra juice.
So here we are, we've made it. We're somewhere out in rural Saskatchewan at this legal medical grow here, and a lot of good security. Show us what's going on inside the room.
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is just your typical mom and pop operation in the prairies. A small greenhouse, no synthetic light right now because we're in fall. So welcome.
Wow. Wow.
Again, these are smaller plants than usual. They were vegged indoors and then put outdoors to flower. You can see that there's still these tarps that come through here with the automatic motors that shut everything down, so we can do, you know, all year gardening, and we have to control it to stay within the legal limits of Health Canada.
And these plants are in kind of their final stages.
They're in their final stages right now. Some of them are going to take a little longer. We're rinsing. We came out here to rinse today. So what we're trying to do is make it so it's like good water culture, hydroponics. So we're going to flush the plants, pull all the fertilizer out of the soil that's in it right now, and then
so when you say rinse,
rinsing, we're pulling all the excess of nutrient that's been put into the plant for it to grow this big. Like a marijuana plant can take in 2,500 parts per million of total dissolved solids of minerals and food, and to get it clean, you want to take all that out of there so it's eating nothing but pure water for at least a week.
So it's in the rinse stage, and that's
what
we're here to do
right now. Is put them down to as low as we can.
Well, let's have a closer look.
Yeah, for sure. This is a honeybee. This is definitely a Morris sativa dominant plant. Beautiful plant. And again, most of these plants in here are all different strains because they have to come down at different times to stay within those limits. Like, they make it difficult, but you know, this is proof enough that it can be done. You know what I mean? Like the licensing process that they have in play, it works. For people who are hard workers at it, they just need to really expand and educate people on it more, so it's not just left to an elite few.
Right. So you maximize what you can out of the plants that you're allowed, and you have different strains that crop out at different times, so that you can get that.
Stay within the legal limits. It's extremely difficult, but again, it's just proof in the pudding. It can be done.
It can be done.
These are massive plants, and if let be, they can grow as big as you can imagine them to be. And there's so much fiber and material on here that could be used other than just the medicine, these beautiful buds, which is the medicine.
What other kinds do you have? Let's have a look.
Okay, this is the honeybee. This is that beautiful citrusy Asian orange. It smells just like oranges. Absolutely phenomenal. It changes to nice purple colors.
Oh, that is so sweet.
Extremely citrusy. Yeah. A lot of people think marijuana smells like skunks. When you got strains like this, you don't have to worry about the smell. People think you're in an orange orchard.
Yeah.
And there's Alien Dog.
This is Alien Dog.
Alien Dog. Yeah. This one, another honeybee.
Honeybee.
Yeah. Another pure sativa. This is the elephant butt. The elephant bud is definitely more haze dominant. It gets extremely big. It takes an extremely long time to flower.
So this has still got a ways to go in its flowering.
This is the longest one to go, yeah. This will thicken up. It'll definitely fill out nearing its last weeks, probably nearing the end of November, and we're still in October right now.
It's still gaining height, is it?
It won't gain height anymore.
It's actually bent right over. It would be up above
I had to bend it because it was getting too tall. That's a harsh reality. I don't like cutting plants down at the top. I like to bend them and manipulate the growth of them. That's how you get your max yields, is opening the plant right up.
So you don't clip them when they're small? And
I shape them, when they're very small in their vegetation state. I'll pinch them, and that's how you get those main big shoots. It's not just one big stake coming out. Sativa dominant, this one I pinched really late, so the branch is it's pretty high up on there.
And how much soil is this?
I'm going to say probably about, what would you say there, 50 gallons? Yeah, probably about 50 gallons.
Yeah. And what's this one behind you?
This one is a Red Dragon from Barney's farm.
Red Dragon from Barney's farm.
Yeah. That's a beautiful pheno. Very small. This one doesn't grow very big, but it usually yields quite a bit. The buds are usually really dense.
And it's kind of, spread out and tipped over.
It likes to open itself up. It does all that on its own. I got to stake it up. And bamboo does have a use in the prairies, you can see.
Yeah.
Some of these stakes we have to get are 10 feet tall. This is a Burmese Kush, which I actually got from Victoria Island, which is kind of nice. A little piece of BC, because BC is like my second home. Oh, beautiful plant. Another elephant bud.
There's something very special about being in a medical cannabis garden. It just feels and smells so good. It's very therapeutic. Those who grow their own medicine tell me that the plants respond to them, that there's a real symbiotic relationship that develops when the plants that you're putting your love into become that which heals you.
It goes up there a ways too, eh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kink in my neck
Yeah,
here.
women like diamonds. I don't know, we got one here now, so maybe we should ask her which one she likes better.
This has got some nice...
Yeah, the Burmese is always extremely heavy. Again, this is like your typical cash crop. It's the Kush. Everybody's after the Kush for some reason, and well, not for some reason. You can tell growers love it because it produces a weighty bud. It's really fast. But if I was interested in strictly money, this is all I would grow, and that's unfortunately what's limiting this legal process. Is people are limiting themselves to strains because of cash crop. They're interested in money, not in a cure.
So in a lot of cases, people can't get these other strains because everybody wants to grow the stuff that's going to grow fast.
That's
and
right,
yield
yeah.
the most.
To a grower, it's not economically feasible, is what they say, but it doesn't matter. It can be. We prove in the prairies that it can be. Sativas
if
can
it's
be
medically
grown.
feasible
That's right.
and better, then
it should be
certainly
grown.
worth doing.
Exactly.
I can feel your
So that's really it. Cannabis is still illegal because it is so valuable. And ending the prohibition would be very damaging to the bottom line profits of those with patentable substitutes and to those who wish to control what we consume. Even though it is a total violation of basic human rights, and it is Canada's sick and dying who are being harmed the most.
So it's a very long and drawn out process, and once again, it forgets the single reason why any of us are doing this, and it's about the sick. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's not about Carol. Well, Carol happened to be a medical user, but ultimately it's really about that.
I am pretty.
I think it all boils down to that the right to the plants, mushrooms, and cacti of the earth is a fundamental right, fundamental human right that is as inherent as our right to air and water and life, and that these laws against it are clearly unnatural. And in regards to cannabis, we're talking about humanity had an indigenous relationship with this plant going back thousands and thousands of years.
So we're like moving backwards, whereas the Americans seem to be moving forwards in a lot of ways, at least in terms of the states who can do these things independently of the federal.
With medical marijuana, for example, an initiative is there where people are allowed to grow their own.
Selling clones and things like that openly.
If you're happy with the health care that your doctor is providing for you, then you should be sharing with him the fact that you're a cannabis user and that there are places like the dispensary to come down to get your medicine in a nice fashion rather than having to get it from the alley or one guy down the street somewhere.
In Portugal, now they have ended the drug war and the drug crimes have stopped. So again, the only real drug you have to worry about is the liquid drug called alcohol.
The interesting thing is, once you have your exemption, it doesn't get rid of the social stigma. I mean, you go walking outside consuming your medicine and people look down at you. They think, oh, you're smoking pot, you're a bad person. When you're not.
There's three ways that you can get marijuana: is either grow it yourself, buy it off of Health Canada, or have a designated grower.
The black market is not an option as far as these forms are concerned.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, based on that, I plan to purchase dry marijuana from Health Canada.
Okay.
Well, somebody told me one time they figured the people who were financing the war on drugs is probably the drug lords, because that has driven the price of drugs up so high.
Making millionaires are a lot of gangsters.
Billionaires, a lot of gangsters, yeah.
How's everybody doing tonight? I suppose it's still the afternoon, right? Is it 4:20 yet? I gotta stay in the light, right? I just wanted to show off my shirt as I roll fatties. I want to welcome everybody to this year's event. It's a little bit bigger than last year, and I have only you guys to thank for that. There's There's important people in the house. Pod TV is in the house. Give a big round for Pod TV. Broadcasting live over Pod TV for the next 2 days, so that's amazing. There's a bunch of great people here. There's a bunch of great vendors. There's a bunch of great edibles over the table that I made. And there's lots of great smoke, great samples, and I know great people. So I want to thank you all for coming out and supporting this. And come have a vapor bag with me. And I think it's 4:20. Do we got a count or something? What time is it? 4:19? I don't think I can fill another half a minute. I don't know.
Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come. I am just a man who is doing what he can, but policemen always come and take my lead. What's a boy to do when instead of red I'm blue? Policemen always come and take my lead. 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 Policemen always come and take my lead.
I've been studying herbal medicines for 30 years now, and as it turns out, it has so many different applications and uses in medicine. If you look at the efficacy of, well, efficacy is a clinical trial term, but the effectiveness of cannabis over such a huge range of illnesses, and it's non-toxic.
Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come and take my lead. Oh yeah, yeah, but I'm still feeling well. Some Babylon thinking robbed I for my weed. One last piece of grass, my eyes starched up in my eyes. Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come and take my lead. Policemen always come and take. Policemen always come and take my lead. 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 Policemen always come and take my rabbi of my good sense.
Hi there, welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sick Moose video.
Oh yes, Sick Moose video. Let's play the Sick Moose video.
Yeah, so that's my home. That's like all over the place, I guess.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you, and still, you can't make to us now, when I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good.
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And fun.